Yeah, so like I'm really enjoying like newer protagonists
Mhm.
recently, like with Shonen. Um and I know like with a lot of new stories, especially like I guess with certain manga or certain anime coming out, like I hate to say it, but like Boruto, where like a lot of like newer shows aren't really they're not really getting the best reception or whatnot. It
Right.
kind of seems like newer shonen isn't really doing as much like they're not really doing justice as much as like older characters like Goku, Luffy, Naruto, whatchamacallit from Yu Yu Hakusho, even like, Sailor or even honestly like Sailor Moon or like Saint Seiya. But honestly, people like Deku, just honestly like a lot of the like just class A from My Hero,
Right.
a lot of characters from Fire Force, Yuji from Jujutsu Kaisen, even like Megumi, Nobara, Gojo, a plethora of new characters and whatnot. I think it's very refreshing to see a new take and a new like perspective from newer manga artists on like what a protagonist is,
Mhm.
what that looks like, and like how they operate in their own respective worlds. Because like these are um various aged individuals. They're kind of like, I think they're like all around the same age. I know none of them are over 20. I think i think maybe one or two, but like it's less about that but more about like how they operate in their own like respective universes, because it's really cool to see like how a protagonist acts shows a lot about like what is going on in the current economy of like of their stories and whatnot. And so like
Right.
Deku, for instance, when we started My Hero, or and anyone who is caught up on My Hero can see like Deku was a very, he was super like, he just had so much wonder in him. Like, he was so curious about like how to become a hero. He wanted to be a hero. He had so much drive. And we see that goal accomplished, but now we see like a little bit more of a mature, older Deku, in the current, like the last season, or I guess the latest season of My Hero. And he's got some grit to him. Like he's changed. A lot has changed in not only the universe, but just a lot has changed with him. And it's like cool
Right.
to see that. Like it's cool to see him develop into kind of a completely new character where he's still at his core is very much himself, but also, like he's just he's almost like not like anti-heroish, but like he's almost like leaning over to that side, but he still has so much light in him where it really balances it out, where he's not like an anti-hero. He's just doing things in like almost like an anti-hero mannerism, if that makes sense.
Right. Are you talking like more in this last season of My Hero where towards the end of that season where he kind of takes that more anti-hero approach? Is that what we're kind of talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
I've
was
just been
yeah, I was going
oh,
to say
sorry
that was
about that.
that was really interesting because it was the way that I saw Deku prior to that was not some like I didn't see him taking that turn, and I guess it reminded me a lot of something Two Face said in The Dark Knight, um, which is you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And in that moment, like people were scared of Deku, and it just kept reminding me of that line. And yeah, it was really interesting to see that turn. But to speak to what you were talking about, I think it's really cool and even more relatable to see somebody like Deku coming up. Whereas, like, when I was growing up, Goku, right? Like, that was the
Yeah.
protagonist. But I mean, there was no development. He was already Goku. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I mean, so to see that growth and development with these newer pro tags, I think is really cool. And it's something that I think a lot of people can relate to.
hmm It's really cool. Like even like a character like Tanjiro, who is pretty much just like, he's like as what I would call like a pure sunshine character.
Hmm.
He still has those moments where he directly talks to like other characters and like the things that he feels almost in a sense like holds them back. And he's a very interesting like redemption character where like I feel, in my personal opinion, for people who are gonna get all upset about it, but in my personal opinion, I think that he's a great redemption character when it comes to like talking to whether it's a villain or just talking to another protagonist, antagonist or protagonist. And like I said, he definitely speaks to the heart. And
Right.
but at the same time, he's very, very, he's very much about like his protecting his, his sister, like his family. He's very loyal to his friends, and he understands the assignment of who he is. Like he knows he's still in the Demon Slayer Corps, and he knows he still has an assignment. Like, I have to kill demons. But I think when he notices, I guess like similar to Deku or similar to moments in My Hero, when he notices that there is a moment for redemption, he doesn't, he definitely jumps on it like ASAP. He doesn't even like hesitate. But when he knows that there is like, there's not a redemption story coming out of this guy, he's like, no, we got to take him out. And it's one thing I really like about Tanjiro, or even just the Demon Slayer storyline, is that it's very much it's like, it's almost kind of like this blueprint about like, when navigating, I guess, like in real life or whatnot. It's like,
Right.
you can notice when people have redeeming qualities to them, where it's like, okay, you might be able to come back from this, versus like when you really need to like distance yourself from somebody, avoid somebody, or be like, okay, this person is really, they're bad for my health. I shouldn't associate with this person at all. And in a sense, like, quote unquote, eliminate them, from your life, and like make sure that you don't have them like in your circle, or in your proximity. But it's been like that with a couple protagonists, but I think like Deku and Tanjiro for sure. Good old Mr. Sunshine Boy. They've been doing a they've been doing a pretty good job at kind of like showing that throughout their stories, in my opinion.
Right. I was gonna say, like, compassion is something that a new protagonist one has to have. I think that being able to see the decision and the decision making behind like right and wrong choices definitely speak more to the audience watching than just always knowing that it's a bad guy and we're going to attack it as such.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool too, because I mean, you mentioned like Tanjiro and then like Deku. I do think that, like with Deku, for example, in seeing his drive to just help others, like, you not only need to be compassionate, but you have to like have this. I'm gonna be first to the fight. Like, I'm gonna have this underlying, like, I don't know, grit that you need to go out and just be that like scrappier version until you figure it out on your own. And
Yeah.
that's something that I really liked about a show like My Hero, or even Hunter x Hunter, where you have like Gon, who doesn't really understand like Nen, right? But he's decides to, instead of pacing himself, to just go all in. He's gonna scrap with it. And in the beginning, patience was one of those things that he had to be taught, because he didn't want to. Just like Deku ran right into, what was it, the first test in the
Yeah.
hero, and he was like, all right, full power, let's go. He punches the robot, and spoilers, he busts his arm.
Yeah,
um,
he breaks his whole arm. Like, all right, come on, kid. Like,
Yeah.
let's take this slow.
So I mean, I do think that they need to have that I'm gonna, first to the fight, that grit, that I'm gonna get down and I'm gonna scrap, not really knowing what I'm doing yet, but not because like it's out of a pure sense of like duty almost. It's like, hey, I've got this thing, I need to, if I'm not helping somebody, who am I out here to help? And so like, I think that Deku's a great example of that, where he was powerless, right, and then ends up still going to fight the goo monster.
Yeah.
And it's just those things. Like, I think a lot of people in those circumstances can relate to that, and I think the relatability of these characters is something that speaks to the popularity of them. So, and how well that they do, whether it's Yuji or it's Deku or it's Gon. And even Killua, and I would say Bakugo, and there's a lot of things that make these protagonists very relatable, and just kind of gives you that, what, I can see a little bit of myself in them. And they speak to a lot of people, so
It's really cool. I'm really loving this new era of protagonists, and it's like, with former protects, like it's definitely like there was like a little bit of sense of relatability, but I think it was
Hmm.
more so like their call to action. Like
Right.
Goku never backed down from a fight.
Hmm.
Naruto was the same. Yeah, he was like, he had a goal, he had a mindset, and he was gonna like, he's gonna do whatever it took to like get to it. Even like Luffy, Luffy really, he had two goals, which is he wanted to get the One Piece and he wanted to get, I think it was 9 or 10 crewmates. He was like, I want crewmates, and this is how I want my crew to look. And like we're seeing that determination from Luffy, like little by little, as One Piece like rolls around. And so I'm really like I'm liking the different eras of like what being a protagonist is meaning to like manga illustrators and manga artists or manga writers. And just like how the animations have kind of been translating that when it comes to like just the interpretation of like how to really visually tell that story to people. And so it's like really cool. Like even like Saint Seiya, like I think about
Yeah.
like Saint Seiya was kind of the same, where it's just like a very team oriented thing, but it's like never back down from a fight. Always it's like always figure out like how can I be better in the moment than how I was like when this first started, and like what can I do to get the upper hand and stuff like that, in a way that does not like deter my morals, or like it sacrifices morality just for the win. And so it's cool. I really and I don't think that there was one era that was like better than another. People talk about like the golden era of like manga or anime, and it's like of course like we love that nostalgic look and whatnot, but I think that more than anything, especially with new manga and new anime coming out, like pretty much every single month, it's
Hmm.
really nice to see the difference of like the economic differences of each era of these different shows and these different books. And I think that the era that we're in right now, I think it's such an amazing time to have these types of protagonists, because compassion is very important, especially in a time when we just came out the pandemic and like individualism was at such a high peak. Compassion is something almost in a sense that it might be time to relearn that, but it's really
Right.
nice having manga and anime really put that as like a forefront, rather than just even like going into a fight full force. It's like I still have compassion at the end of the day. Like I can be super powerful, I can be super knowledgeable, but like I still have compassion for my subordinates, my friends, my family, even my enemies when it comes time. It's like it's a really nice thing to see, like especially in this time
Hmm.
of how the economy is and whatnot.
I just really think that it's cool to see not just the compassion that these characters have, and how that kind of fits into where we're at in the world today and what we need to kind of get out of society a little bit more. But one of the things that I think is really cool is they do speak to several aspects of that more optimistic nature. So like. One of the things is you won't see any of the protagonists that are very ego driven.
Hmm.
They're all very humble in their own way, and they always have that positive outlook. Like they always believe that in the best possible outcome, even though that might not be what they get. They believe they can get there, and
Oh yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that's really cool. I mean, just that drive, everything that we've been speaking to, those are just some great qualities to have as a protagonist, and I think that's what makes them really popular.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. It's just it's so cool. I'm super loving this
Hmm.
new wave, and it makes me very excited for the next wave of protagonists and whatnot. Like I'm very I'm very thankful that we're in a time where like this is what we're being handed to, because it could definitely be worse. And I've read my fair share of questionable protagonists or just questionable manga that I dare not speak out to the public. But it's
You read it for the
it's
plot. It's
nice.
fine.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But I'm liking the consistency. It's really nice that like the top contenders, when it comes to like people's favorites and whatnot of like
Right.
this era, are very consistent across the board. So yeah, it's I like it. I'm very pleased as a as a little otaku, a little nerd, it's very pleasing to see this string of great protagonists, and to have so many options of like, it's not just like, oh, we only have like three or four, good shows or good, good whatchamacallit to read. Like, it's like, no, I have a plethora, and there's so many more that are still being discovered, and
Mm-hmm.
new artists are coming up. So it's really cool. I'm really liking this. I'm really liking it.
Awesome. I will say one thing before we wrap up. Boruto, you mentioned that. I will say this. It needs to stop with the exposition. It needs to stop. You need to have something story driven. Move the story forward a little bit, because that show is all exposition. That's really all it is.
I'm really glad that Masashi Kishimoto decided that he was gonna pick up the pen and continue and be the person that's in charge now of writing for Boruto. No disrespect to the former writer, no disrespect at all. I understand it's a lot of pressure. It is a ton of pressure to you're not only coming off of one great series, you're basically coming off of two.
Right.
And two great series, a ton of great games, a lot of great, like, the anime was amazing. It was very well animated, a lot of great stories, a lot of great spin-offs. You're coming off of a very successful brand. It is
Right.
very hard to just pick up where something so well left off. And it's like, even for people who are like, the ending of Shippuden wasn't my favorite, but it was still good. It's still like everyone synonymously agrees that like we got a good ending. Like, we're like, if it ends here, we're fine. We're good.
Right.
We had a movie and it wrapped things up even better. So it's like, I understand there's a lot of pressure, but there is still this thing called consistency, of which we demand as fans, because you can't just write things off and expect us to just be okay with it.
Right.
We were here. We have been here for a long time. We're veterans, and it's like, I get it. Like, you know more than I do about how to write. But I also, like, in a sense, like, I have to have an opinion on this too as a fan, because I put time, I put effort, like, I've been here for a while. And I think that, like, I'm holding out hope. I never thought I would say this. I am holding out hope that Boruto will get better, because once it does, I will officially, like, finish it. I'm not
Right.
doing that right now. I don't have it in me. They did too many things with that story that I'm just like, I gotta let it go.
Yeah,
Let it go.
I did have to also pull out my inner Elsa and let it go, because yeah, it was all exposition, and I was sitting there very much in the similar light, just like, all right, I got to come back to this later. It's not it right now. So high expectations. I think that's what it suffers from. It suffers from high expectations from fans, and at the end of the day, we want what we want, and like you said, you can't just write things off and not tell us why. So because things are already done. We have this expectation, and we know what we want from the show. Like, I'm not saying to give us all fan service, but at least address things, especially where this is already kind of like built.
Yeah, I'm like, come on. And it's like, here's the thing also, is that the easiest way to avoid this issue with Boruto right now is to not start when Naruto's a whole dad.
Right.
Let's start with that. What happened in between all these years before he became Hokage?
Right.
Because we don't have any context. We just see Naruto being like an okay dad. Let's backtrack for a second. Let's build on this, because like we don't have any context as to what is happening to anybody. And so I gotta let it go.
A show that I will say suffers from the same problem would be The Legend of Korra. Suffers from very much a similar problem. Not because we would expect that Aang is no longer around, right? With the new avatar, but to not know and to leave so many open ends when it comes to like Toph, Katara, just all of the Sokka, all of the other characters, like I don't know. I kind of miss Momo. Where's Momo? Where's Appa? Like, there's so many loose ends you got to tie up first. And I think that the expectation from fans knowing that those characters would still be in the show just became it became a detriment to the show. Honestly, I think it would have been a better show if they would have just said, "You know what? We're past that. This is a new generation and this is the new Avatar." So, not having an Avatar post, Team Avatar is something that, would have helped the show greatly, but they chose to not do that and pick it up like immediately after, which is kind of where I think the show suffered because, yeah, sure, we get Tenzin, which was great. And honestly, such a badass. But, it does leave like, okay, so we also get like Toph, like Tenzin works with Toph. It just really made it like gave us a very poor expectation of where the show could go. Even though Katara was kind of a mentor to Korra, it's just one of those things that we didn't really get. We didn't really get the closure that we wanted to get, or even the brief overview that was shown to us in like towards the end of Aang's career as the Avatar. We didn't really get that closure even in that segment, that story. So it made it a little tough for me to keep following. I did love Korra for what it was, but I do think that the show suffered for very similar reasons as Boruto.
Oh my goodness. And I need writers to I don't ever want to see another deadbeat dad in a cartoon.
Yeah.
I think that trend, we're done with that. Like, we have great examples of dads in cinema and in animation.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not just write off a character, or make their kids angry and all, like, whatever, just and make them a deadbeat just so like you have some context. Like, I just never saw Aang being that way. And it's like, I get it. He's young. Like, people change when they get older. But this is also the Avatar. And from the get-go, he established a very, very, very large, like, I'm the Avatar. I need to stick to this mission. After running away, like, I'm taking responsibility. Right. That does not sound like the Aang that we got in Korra. And it's like, I get it. You want to make the story different and whatnot, but it's like, this is the same thing. Remember, there were fans here. That's who's coming to this show. Like, it's not just new people who've never seen Atla. It's also fans. We're gonna have questions.
Yep.
Boruto, why is Naruto the way he is? Why are all these things happen? We're gonna have questions. And if you can't actually answer those questions in a way that is both satisfying to the fans and the story, you can't compromise the story, but also in a sense, like, you should still kind of appeal to fans, like, then you probably shouldn't be writing it. And it's like, it's not to say that writers shouldn't make their own decisions, but it's those decisions that make us trust those writers. It's the decisions that made us fans. That's why we're fans. We feel like we understand something. Like, you understand more than me of how to write a good story, but it's like, I don't understand more than you about how good this character is or how to make a good character, but I'm trusting you that I will follow you wherever you're writing this character, as long as it is good. Some of the decisions people have made and when they've written, characters or whatnot, I didn't always like, I didn't always agree with, but I still trusted that they were following, like, wherever they were going. I was like, I trust you. Like, Zuko was one of those people where I'm like, I don't know where this is going, but I trust that this is going somewhere good. Azula was another one. I was like, I don't know where this is going at this point, but I trust, this is going somewhere. Deku, like, there's a lot, like, not every decision that Kishimoto made with Naruto I agreed with. Not every decision that he made with the manga I agreed with. Everyone knows what happened with Jiraiya. We all know what happened with Itachi. But those two are, in my opinion, I have so much peace about those deaths. To this day, I'm still like, I really wish it went down different, but I am completely okay with the decision that they did, or he did, to go along with that. Right. Not a lot of writers can do that. And it's like, well, I don't want to say a lot of writers can do that, but it's like, some people can't. A lot of writers can. but some can't. And it's like, we can't keep making this a consistent problem. This
Right.
shouldn't be a problem. Ugh.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. And honestly, I do think that fans in general should, at least at the very beginning of a new story that's attached to another story, should get the closure that they want from the last.
Yeah.
If it was left open-ended, then give us the closure we need and move on if it's in
Yeah.
the same universe. I understand those are some big shoes to fill, and not everybody is willing to take that on. But in not knowing, especially for like a casual fan who maybe the answer did come in manga, but we are, maybe there's a casual fan who only sits down to watch it when the anime comes out, and they end up, let's say, starting after all of the juice has happened, been spilled, or all the tea, sorry. So, they end up starting the show after all the tea's out, and essentially they miss out and are left unhappy. And I know that there's a lot of casual fans out there who don't have those answers from, previous things that have been released. But, I do think it's important to at least tie up those loose ends and give the people who have been here for the entire time the closure that they want from that previous season. That's just my personal take, but I would love to see that done well in an anime. So
Yeah. And I would love to even just talk with more writers, like, especially writers who, like, I disagree with. Because, like, I want to know more about, like, why do they make those decisions? Because I
Right.
think if I can understand where they're coming from, then, like, not to say that I don't respect them or their decisions, but I can have a new perspective on what's going on. Because it's like, I'm not in the booth with them. I'm not doing anything. It's just like voice actors. It's like, man, why did you choose to act it out that way instead of like another way? And it's just like,
Right.
I'm not in the booth with you, so I would just love your insight. But yeah, like I think if I were to be able to talk to more writers, I think it would also make it better, because maybe they'll tell me something and I'm just like, I didn't see that. That's so true. I get it now. Like, I totally get it. Or maybe they tell me something and I'm just like, I still hold the same feelings, but I understand a lot better.
But then
And
I think you
so-
turn into that, that crazy person who like pops into a chat and is like, hey, but you got to understand. And everybody's like, no, did you not see what we saw? And you're like, but really,
It's like, nah, you don't understand. I know. I don't want to be like that. That would suck. I think it's definitely like,
you walk in, you're like, but actually, all right.
All right, listen, but actually, you see, the reason that they made this decision is because of the fact that
It's like, all right, okay, come on, Nee.
It's
We
all right.
understand.
I get like that. I get like that just with other fandoms. So like, I'm like,
actually, I'm
yep.
gonna tell you the truth.
Thank you for joining us for the first episode of YB and Knee. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversations. Did you agree or did you disagree with our positions? Let us know in the comments down below. And like always, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content and to help the video reach more people. Also, go drop Knee a follow. His links are in the description down below. That's it from me. I love you guys, and we'll see you next time.